all the latest national and international stories. Then at 7:30, join Sports Day for all the day's sports news.
This is BBC News. I'm Martine Croxall. The headlines at 7. Protesters face off with police on the streets of Barcelona after former Catalonian President Carles Puigdemont is arrested in Germany. These are the latest pictures from Barcelona as separatist supporters call for Mr Puigdemont's release. The Australia cricket captain Steve Smith has been banned for one match by cricket's ruling body, the ICC, over the ball tampering scandal. The Australian Prime Minister says he's shocked and disappointed. An extra 3,000 midwives are to be trained in England to ease staff shortages and improve care. A teenage girl is seriously injured after a car deliberately drove at children in Glasgow. Police are treating the incident as attempted murder. Also in the next hour, after 17 hours and 9,000 miles, the first scheduled non-stop flight from Australia to Europe touches down in London. The Qantas flight from Perth to Heathrow will be the first regular direct route between the two continents. And in Formula One, Sebastian Vettel pushes Lewis Hamilton into second place to win the opening Grand Prix of the season. And in 45 minutes, Jim Naughtie talks to Norwegian writer Åsne Seierstad about her book Two Sisters in this week's Meet the Author. Good evening and welcome to BBC News. The former Catalan President Carles Puigdemont will appear before a judge tomorrow following his arrest in Germany. He's wanted in Spain for sedition and rebellion. Meanwhile, thousands of people have been protesting in Barcelona against his arrest. Mr Puigdemont had fled to Belgium after Catalonia's disputed independence referendum last October. Well, joining us now from Madrid is journalist and political analyst Miguel Ancho Morado. Thank you very much for joining us this evening here on BBC News. How different a prospect is this then, extradition from Germany rather than Belgium?
Well, in the case of Belgium, when Mr Puigdemont found himself there in the same situation, was that Belgian law does not have a crime that is similar to the crime of sedition or rebellion in Spain, and that was a reason to deny the extradition. It didn't happen anyway because the Spanish judge withdrew the request of an arrest warrant of an extradition from Belgium. Now we will know what happens in the case of Germany. Germany does have a crime that is similar, and this is important to mark. It's similar to that of rebellion in Spain, but it's not exactly the same. So a judge will have to decide on that.
How great a risk for the Spanish government is it then trying to extradite him a second time?
Well, it is a gamble for both sides, both for former President Puigdemont and for the Spanish government. If Mr Puigdemont is not extradited, it would be a considerable victory for him. It will be a recognition by a very important European country that Spain is not doing things right. If he is extradited, though, it will be exactly the opposite. It will be a country like Germany admitting that he has breached the law, that he has indeed rebelled against the Spanish government, and that would be a boost for Spain.
There was criticism of how the Spanish government reacted in the past to the protests and the attempts to secede in Catalonia. How much support does the Spanish government have over this move?
Well, in Spain, among the Spanish people, it has, I would say, close to full support. The international media has been critical with Spain, but what the Spanish government is most interested is in the reaction of the European governments, and the European governments, by and large, have been supporting the Spanish line.
Of course, we've got those protests that are underway at the moment in Barcelona. We've got some live pictures there. It looks pretty peaceful, but in the background we can, of course, see those security vans, the police vehicles, just in case there were to be any problems. But at the moment, thankfully, it all seems quite peaceful. But what impact is this attempt to extradite Mr. Puigdemont going to have on the pro-independence movement?
Well, if it happens, if he is finally extradited, it will be a huge blow for the pro-independence movement, which is really going through a very bad patch. Things are not going the way. Recently, just this week, they failed in an attempt to appoint a new Catalan president who is a nationalist, and their strategy is in shambles. This would only worsen things for them. For Spain, it would be, of course, a huge triumph. As for the protests, well, so far protests of the nationalists in Catalonia have been largely peaceful. This one seems angrier, and there are some baton charges that we know of. But I don't expect this to spiral out of control. I think, in general, we will expect this to play out more in the judicial sphere rather than in the streets.
Miguel Ancho Morado in Madrid, thank you very much for your time and your analysis. Thank you. Australia's cricket captain Steve Smith has been banned from playing in the final Test match in South Africa amid a ball tampering scandal described by the Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull as a shocking disappointment. Smith had already been forced to hand over his duties as captain for the third Test. There are still questions for the wider leadership of the national team after a player was caught on camera manipulating the ball with a piece of tape. This report from our correspondent in Sydney, Phil Mercer.
Just how Cameron Bancroft thought he could get away with tampering with the ball using sticky tape and dirt in front of dozens of TV cameras is unclear.
I saw an opportunity to potentially use some tape, get some granules from the rough patches on the wicket, and try to I guess change the ball condition.
His captain Steve Smith, who was part of the conspiracy, has agreed to stand down for the remainder of the match, along with his deputy David Warner.
I'm not proud of what's happened. It's not within the spirit of the game, my integrity, the team's integrity.
Both men will continue to play under an interim skipper. There is, though, mounting pressure for Smith to quit. Cricket Australia, the governing body, is sending 2 senior officials to South Africa to investigate the scandal. The Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull said he shared his country's disappointment.
It seemed completely beyond belief that the Australian cricket team had been involved in cheating. After all, our cricketers are role models, and cricket is synonymous with fair play.